The e.l.f. new Finest Fleck Glitter Eyeshadows are the same as the Urban Decay Moondust Eyeshadows, but are they? They look similar enough in the pans, but are they really? We're about to find out. Timestamps are below. Let's get started. I want to get the obvious out of the way, which is the packaging of these two. They both come in a clear kind of component, plastic component where you can see the actual product. I prefer this type of packaging, A, because you can see the product inside, compact enough to travel with you, and they are sleek and pretty minimal looking. Now, I only picked up 4 out of the 6 shades. 3 out of the 4 shades that I picked up, I do have the Moondust equivalent shadows to it, so I'll be able to compare side by side and give you guys swatches later on both of the formulas. The shades that I picked up are White Hot, Champagne Showers, Straight Fire, and Filthy Rich. Now, I did purchase mine from the e.l.f. Canada website. They came around to around $11 each, but they are available at Shoppers Drug Mart. I believe you can only purchase them online at the moment, and you can get them for $8.79 each, especially considering that the Moondust eyeshadows from Urban Decay retail at $32 here in Canada. But the main test is in the formula and how they wear and look on the eyelids. So let's get into the swatches here. I'm going to start off with White Hot, which is the equivalent to the Urban Decay Cosmic eyeshadow. I don't have the dupe for this one, so you're just seeing the e.l.f. eyeshadow right now. Now, this particular shade in White Hot acts like a topper because it has a very clear base. On my eyelids, it's just mimicking my skin tone. The glitter sparkles in here are very, very soft and fine. The more you blend it in, the shimmers sort of like disperse, and it gives you more of that wet look on the eyelids as well. The shimmers are white suspended in a clear base, so it's going to go really well as a topper on top of any eyeshadow look. The next shade is Champagne Showers, and it's meant to be a dupe for the Space Cowboy. I'm going to do the Space Cowboy for you guys first, and you guys know that this is a cult favorite for many. Now, this actually has a base underneath. It's almost like a beige, almost like a peachy beige base with white and champagne glitters in it. Champagne Showers is a similar concept. It does have that peachy beige base as well, but it's not as deep as Space Cowboy. I feel that there's more pigment to Space Cowboy as opposed to this is like a very light base. And the shimmers in here are not as impactful as Space Cowboy. Space Cowboy truly has a lot more glitter pigments, and they're a little bit more chunkier, but in a good way. But on the lids, you can see the difference right away where one is a little bit more subdued and subtle, whereas the other one looks really wet. It looks shimmery. It's really popping next to the Champagne Shower shade. Now, next we have the shade Straight Fire, which is meant to be the dupe for Solstice Moondust eyeshadow. I haven't used this shade too much, and I don't know why, because as you guys can see, it is stunning. It is so pretty. It's like that beautiful purpley base with flecks of blue, purple and blue in it actually. This is again a very, very sparkly shade. It has a lot of glitter suspended in it, and the more I rub it in, the more those sparkles seem to come through. On the other hand, Straight Fire to me is a little bit muted again. The base is slightly different as well. It's still on the purple side, but it's a little bit more mauve, more like a purple pink base. And the sparkles on top, again, don't have that beaming, light reflecting quality as much as the Solstice shade does. And again, that's not necessarily anything bad. It's just what your preference would be at the end of the day. If you guys want to see the swatches side by side, this one is Straight Fire and this one is Solstice. You see how Solstice is a little bit more of that purple red base, whereas this is more of that of a purple pink base. And that's what I mean by like against the purple red base, the sparkles are showing up a lot more because the base itself is a little bit deeper than the Straight Fire shade. So I hope that helps. And I'm also wearing Straight Fire on my eyelids right now as well. And I do have a tutorial on this a little bit later on in the video. And the final shade that I have for you is Filthy Rich, which is meant to be the equivalent of my favorite shade from the Moondust line, which is Lithium. Lithium is a little bit more of that bronzy gold base, like a neutral bronze gold, whereas Filthy Rich is a little bit more of the bronze green, almost like an olive undertone to it. So this one is probably the most different when comparing the two, but both of them are gorgeous in their own right, you know. Lithium is a little bit more sparkly and has more of that gold champagne shift, whereas Filthy Rich is more of that dirty olive bronze with very subtle sparkles running through it. And on my hands, you guys can see, again, this is Lithium, this is Filthy Rich, and this one is a little bit more sparklier than this one. The base pigment of these two necessarily isn't different when it comes to depth. I think the depth is the same, but I feel that Lithium has more of a brown, bronze, gold running through the base pigment, whereas Filthy Rich has a dirty olive green bronze running through. So it's kind of like same but different. And you can really see the difference on the eyelids. One is definitely greener than the other. Overall, I do like these e.l.f. eyeshadows. I think they're a great alternative to the Urban Decay Moondust eyeshadow, especially if you're someone that likes glitter, but like not to that level and you want something a little bit more subdued, a little bit more wearable. Some people are not comfortable with wearing chunks of glitter. Not that they're chunky or anything, but it's just a lot more visible when you are in person. And therefore, some of you might prefer something which is a little bit more subtle, a little bit more subdued. When it comes to the formula of the Urban Decay versus the e.l.f. eyeshadows, I've noticed that both of them do feel gritty, but the Urban Decay almost feels cooler to the touch and it's a little bit more smoother, whereas the e.l.f. actually does feel dry. Not that they are drying on the eyelids or anything like that. Like, I didn't feel a difference there, but it just felt like this was a lot more of a smoother application and a lot smoother feeling. In addition to that, this one has a lot more sparkle. These sparkles are visible. They're a little bit more chunkier, whereas this one is a little bit more subdued and more of like tiny flecks of sparkle through the product. All right, now let's jump into this eye look. I started off with the e.l.f. No Budge Cream Eyeshadow. This is in the shade Sand Dune, and I applied this all over my eyelids just as a base. This was my first time trying this product and the shade, and I think it's perfect. The product itself went on really smoothly. I applied it with a brush. It's a great everyday eyeshadow for myself. Next, I'm picking up the e.l.f. Bite Size Eyeshadow in Truffles, and I go in with that deep brown shade in there, and I just basically apply that to the outer corner just to add some depth. And with that same brush, I'm just basically blending this out, making sure everything's nice and smooth. Next, with my fingers, I'm going to pick up Straight Fire, and I'm going to apply this all the way from the inner corners to the outer corners. I definitely prefer these with my fingers as opposed to a brush. I don't think a brush is going to pick it up. I wanted to add a little bit more pop to the center of my eyelids, so I went in with White Hot and I just applied that again with my fingers to the center of the eyelids to add a little bit more spotlight effect, I guess you could say. Then I went in with this black shade and a pencil brush, and I'm just basically smoking out my lower lash line. I also take a little bit of this to the outer corners on the top lash line just to add a little bit more depth. And this is the look completed with mascara. And I wanted to amplify this even further, so I added a pair of half lashes just to the outer corners, and it just elevated this look to another level. All right, guys, I really wanted to keep this short and sweet. That's all I have for you. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.